Our speaker today is Dr. Tom Gosling. Tom is, I beg your pardon, Thomas is from Denver, Colorado, and he's a very experienced optometrist. I'm sure he'll tell you about himself. The first time I met Thomas was actually about 2 years ago, and I think you'll find him a very entertaining, very motivational speaker. Absolutely. He's a very, very, very good speaker. So I'll pass you over to Tom now, and I hope you enjoy the launch event of our new Sync lens. Thanks very much.
Thanks for all you guys. Thanks for your patience and waiting for this to begin and everything. Now he put me on the spot. I got to be really motivational. So if you guys, if my accent is too harsh, let me know too. If it sounds, being from Denver, Colorado. So a little bit about me. I'm an optometrist. I've been practicing for 25 years. I practiced in Green Bay, Wisconsin for my first 13 years. I worked in a really large ophthalmology practice. There were 12 ophthalmologist specialists, and myself, I was the only optometrist. And so I never touched glasses. If anyone asked me, you know, can you adjust my glasses, ask me questions about the lenses, I knew nothing. Well, eventually I met a Hoya rep in Wisconsin, and we ended up getting married. And so we said, let's go start our own practice. And so we actually moved to Seattle, Washington, and I was looking around. I was working at a laser center, just doing LASIK post-ops, and I said, this is where we want to set our practice up. But after 37 days of rain and 50 days of darkness, I was like, we're out of here. So we moved to Denver, Colorado, and bought a practice. And Denver happens to be one of the sunniest cities in the United States. So we have 320 days of sunshine, typically. The mountains, everyone thinks, you know, Denver's cold. It's really not that cold. In the coldest month, the typical temperature is probably around 8, 9 Celsius, so it's pretty nice there. But I have my own private practice, and as I started to learn the products, especially the Hoya products from my wife, I started to understand that I really enjoyed using the Hoya product because we grew our practice from basically a low-end optical to we moved it to a higher-end optical. But my wife decided after 3 years of running the office that she wanted to go back and become a Hoya rep, so I said, I better learn these products. And I realized that you guys had an active lens called Nulux Active. And I wanted that in the United States. We were the only place in the entire world that did not have this lens available. And you guys all had this available. This is 8 years ago. So I called Hoya Canada first, and they said, no, call United States. I called United States. And eventually, the nice thing is they finally let us bring the lens in. And so we were able to use the lens in the United States, and I found it really changed my practice around. And that's kind of what this is all about, is the evolution of where the past 8 years have gone. And I want people, or the past 10 years especially, have gone. So when we go through this, just kind of reflect back at, you know, how fast things have changed around us. You may think that this is just part of the normal movement of technology, but it has come upon us quickly. So let's kind of go through this. Back in the 1980s, I'm going to step over here. Hopefully I don't kick that down. Back in the 1980s, the first computers came out. And I don't know if many of you guys remember this, but we actually had rooms designated for our computers. We called them computer rooms. I know in the United States we did. So if I wanted to get on the computer, I'd go into my special computer room. I'd get on my computer, and that's where it was. It was locked up against the wall. The computer itself weighed 300 pounds. We had these, you know, these big hunks of machinery. Well, it wasn't until about 1997 that the first backlit LED screen came out, and that changed a lot. Now we had a new backlit LED screen that was much more strenuous on the visual system. These old big clunky computer monitors were greenish in color, and they had very poor graphics. They were very blocky. But when these new LED screens came out, it really changed the dimension of what we were looking at as far as screens. And eventually, this new demand led to a syndrome. The computer vision syndrome. I don't know if many of you guys use that today, but this computer vision syndrome really changed the way optometrists looked at, in the profession, the use of computers and computer viewing. So now let's jump forward. It was July of 2007. Little less than 11 years ago, the first smartphone came out. You know, this changed everything. We had a personal media device. We were carrying it in our pockets. These things are held at a much closer distance than that 2 to 4 feet. They're held at that 8 to 14 inch. We're doing everything with it. Again, it's a backlit display, an LED backlit display. We're gaming, we're texting, we're tweeting, we're surfing, we're doing everything on these devices. 90% of Americans own smartphones. I think that number is low. Last Christmas, I think every Christmas, what happens is everyone gets new technology and then they pass that technology on to the family member, and it's constantly evolving. So I think these devices are up more towards 95%. I used to ask groups, how many of you have smartphones? And I'd watch the hands. I don't do that anymore. I ask now, how many of you don't have a smartphone? So how many of you don't have a smartphone? Every single person has a smartphone. I mean, this is the norm. This is the average that's occurring around the world. Let's take another jump. In April of 2010, the first iPad was released. Again, it's just been 8 years since the first tablet. You know how fast these things have moved into our world? We now have a family portable computer that's held at 12 to 18 inches away. Unless you're a little kid, where you see a lot of the parents handing their kids these tablets to, act as a babysitter, and you watch these kids holding these devices at such close distances. But they are moving into our schools very quickly. I'd say 30 to 40% of actually almost up to 50% of my patient base, school-age children, are using tablets in schools or Chromebooks. So nothing's done by paper anymore. My daughter, who's in 6th grade, if she needs to write a paper, she writes her paper on her computer or on her tablet, and then she logs into the system, and then she forwards it to her teacher. Nothing's really done by paper anymore this way, and these new demands with the visual system on backlit displays are starting to creep into our world more and more. Actually, tablets are outselling computers now, laptops. More people are on these tablets. And what's interesting, too, is that because they're easier to read than an iPhone, you're starting to see a large amount of the older population go to these things. I go to visit my father, and he will always have his iPad on his lap, and he'll have the TV on, and he's going back between these two. They have the ability to change the size of the text. They have the ability to turn the contrast up. They have more control over what they're viewing than they do by anything paper. And here, 60% of Americans own tablets. I think that number's going up more towards 75. And the thing here is to really understand is this is not slowing down. This is an evolution of technology that's continuing to migrate and increase. The use of smartphones, you can see in the green. Look how many smartphones there are. Tablets, again, outselling laptops. You really don't see many people owning desktops anymore. You don't see a lot of people having one computer sitting in one spot. I know myself, I sit there on the couch, I'll have my laptop in my lap, and I'll have my tablet on one side and my phone on the other, and I got the TV across the way, and and this is the norm, I think. I hear more and more people say, yeah, I do that. If I'm going to be on my computer, I'll sit down and I'll get on it. Or the thing is, we're viewing multiple screens now. It's not we're sitting down and looking at one screen for a long period of time. We're looking at multiple screens at multiple distances all throughout the day. So the way we see the world has really changed, especially over the past 10 to 11 years. We're living in a whole new time. Nielsen, back just last year, said, hey, Americans, we found out, devote more than 10 hours a day viewing screens. And 5 of those are spent typically looking at a smartphone. So just think of that. Take that in. I mean, this is such a different world and a different time that we're living in. So in 2017, Hoya actually conducted a global focus group. We really wanted to find out, how are people using their eyes? Is Nielsen right? I mean, is this the way that society is now moving into technology, and they're all connected to screens? So what they found was, what they did was, they kind of took 2 target focus groups. We knew that they were all heavy digital device users, but we wanted to find out that if we took a group of people that were just wearing glasses, basically single vision lenses, and we took the group from 25 to 35, and then another group from 35 to 45, and we watched them. But then we also took a group of mixed of contact lens wearers and non-spectacle wearers, and we took the same age groups, and we said, let's take you guys, and we're going to observe you. We just kind of want to watch you in your world, see how you do. And they observed them in both their work and home settings. And after the study, there were some pretty unique results. They found, first of all, that the focus group participants spent, on average, a day, 8 to 10 hours a day looking at screens. So it did. It fell really close to what Nielsen was finding. What was interesting is that some were actually peaking up to 15 hours a day. So a lot of times with my patients, I want to know, are they on these devices? I can ask them all these questions. But one question I'd like to ask, which I'll show you later on, is how many hours a night are you sleeping on average? Because if I know how many hours a night they're sleeping, then I know how many hours a day they're awake. So if someone's telling me that they're sleeping, say, 7 hours a day and they're awake for 17, and they're telling me that they're on their phone for 15 or looking at screens for 15 hours a day, when are they looking far away? When are they breaking that focus and looking at that optical infinity, anything beyond that 20-foot mark? Because 15 hours a day is not, it's definitely atypical, but more and more younger patients, especially our millennials, are using these devices for longer periods of time. So looking at screens can actually lead to physical discomfort. And the Vision Council refers to this discomfort as digital eye strain. And so now digital eye strain has been out for quite some time, before even the Vision Council denoted it as digital eye strain. But what I like is that the Vision Council says that they recommend individuals and their children visit the eye care provider and discuss their digital habits and the solutions available to help relieve them from this digital eye strain. Because the key is discuss. There's a lot of patients that are out there that aren't talking to their doctors about their digital device usage. And there's a lot of doctors out there that aren't asking their patients about their digital device usage. And this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And this is the key, is that we really need to delve deeper into how our patients are utilizing technology and how many hours a day are they spending viewing screens. So digital eye strain. We found out that digital eye strain through the focus group, 65% of the focus group participants experienced multiple discomforts during even a single hour of digital device usage. And the key here is how many of your patients do you think do less than 2 hours of screen time a day? Not very many. Pretty much the majority of people, unless they're under the age of 2 or 3, are spending more than 2 hours of digital device usage. Now, these are the symptoms that have been found with the Vision Council, and some are with mine, but these are definitely key ones: tired eyes, headaches, blurred vision, dry eyes, light sensitivity, poor night vision, and eye irritation. And we'll kind of go over these a little bit more in detail. I did a study and broke down the most common symptoms of digital eye strain, so we'll talk about them in a bit, but these are definitely some of the more common ones. So what was interesting is that the focus group's conclusions at the end were what were they reporting as far as symptoms of irritation? And the most common was just irritated eyes. What's interesting is that neck and back were also associated as that too, but Vision Council says neck and back symptoms of discomfort is what we consider digital eye strain. I do not correlate those two together. Digital eye strain has to do with the visual system. Back and neck problems have to do with postural. It happens to do with people laying in bed and they're tilted up, they're over and they're down on their back and they're on their front, and they're positioned in just such weird ways that their necks and backs start to bother them. Because even if we were to find a solution and help relieve the visual strain that's occurring digitally from these screens, it's not going to slow down their use of these devices, and the back and neck strains are probably only going to increase. Vision, their main complaints were fluctuation in vision, which later on we'll find out that's the #1 symptom of digital eye strain. Straining to focus was another. And headaches, slightly dull to throbbing. And others noted sleepiness, tiredness, and trouble concentrating. So but here's what the focus group really came down to saying, we asked them about their symptoms. They said, well, you know what? They happen. This is part of life. They say this is an unavoidable consequence of dealing with this stuff. They really weren't considering any of these symptoms to be damaging, and they really said that they weren't serious enough to really want to make changes to their lifestyle to help alleviate these symptoms. And they really weren't that concerned about it. Because the problem with it is a majority of them don't associate the symptoms of accommodative stress, convergence difficulties with the time spent looking at screens or conducting these near point tasks. They just kind of look at it and say, hey, this is just part of life. This is just, if I'm going to be on my device, this is, what's going to happen. So, if they're going to use their devices, then this is just part of the way it's going to be. So like I mentioned, back after I had United States, let me take the active lenses into the United States. They said, just do a study to show us that, what you're saying, you really believe is true. And so I found 12 doctors to work with me. We had about 90 patients total. I said, if anyone shows symptoms of digital eye strain with 4 or more symptoms, prescribe the sync lens. And then a month later, let's give them a call and find how many of these people were, dissatisfied, satisfied, happy, very happy, with their choice. And we found at the end of it all that 95% of the patient base was satisfied, happy, or very happy with their decision going to the sync lens and helping to relieve their symptoms of digital eye strain. But what I got out of the study more than anything was, again, these key symptoms of digital eye strain. And these are actually in the order of the most common to the least common. And like I mentioned, fluctuation of vision is really the most common. And you can think of it, inside the eye, you have the ciliary body that's actually focusing and accommodating. Anything closer than 20 feet, as the closer the image gets to you, the more the accommodative system has to focus. Well, when we're holding these devices at this distance for long periods of time, and that ciliary body is locking up like this, when you go to look far away, it's hard for it to relax out. Have you ever done the standing in a doorway thing and you push really hard against the doorway and then you stand out and you relax and you find your arms just slowly moving back up? And that's muscle memory. And these accommodative systems are definitely the same thing as any muscle. The longer we stare at that screen from near task, the more difficult it is for us to relax when we look beyond that 20-foot mark, or in your guys say 6-meter mark. So I actually had a patient just the other day. He came in from the DMV, and he says, I need glasses for driving. I failed the DMV. And this kid's like 22 years old, and I know exactly what was happening. The kid was sitting in the waiting room at the DMV for the 45 minutes waiting, and he had his phone, and this is what he was doing for 45 minutes. And it's, oh, my turn to take, yeah, okay. And he looked through the instrument, and his system was locked up, because when he came to see me, my autorefractor read he was a -1. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, he's a -1. He says he needs glasses for far away. And then when I looked at symptoms, he checked off every symptom of digital eye strain. And then when I asked him how often he was on his phone, he said 24/7. I mean, he pretty much said, hey, that's all I do is I'm on my phone. So I brought him into the exam lane, and I basically blurred him to a +2 in both eyes. And I said, okay, tell me when you can see the 20/40 line on the top. So I'm bringing it down. And when I got the +1, he goes, yeah, I can start to see it. Well, then I threw the retinoscopy lens in, and I gave him a click of minus, and then I took away the retinoscopy lens. He goes, well, I can see down to almost a second to the bottom now. So I gave him another click, and he goes, I think I got the bottom. And I gave him another click. He goes, I got the bottom. That is nice. And then I clicked him to 0, and he goes, that's beautiful. And I pulled the phoropter back and stuck my finger through it. And I said, there's nothing in there. He goes, what? So then I got close to him, and he focused on me, right here. And I go, your muscles are locking you up in your eyes. So as he was looking at me at this distance, his eyes again began to focus, and I backed away. I go, now look out there. And he goes, I could barely see it. His eyes were responding back to that posture of what he's doing all day. And then this is why we're seeing lots of patients complain of fluctuation in vision or actually reduced vision at distance when they actually need help up close because of the near demand on the eyes. Tired eyes, again, any muscle or any organ that's being strained or stressed like this, they're going to complain that their eyes are tired. Headaches, again, we talked about the throbbing to the dull, especially frontal, especially temporal in this area. This is the interesting one. Here is the 4th most common symptom of digital eye strain, overall body fatigue. And a lot of people go, well, how does that have anything to do with digital eye strain? What we find is by the end of the day, these people's eyes are so stressed out that they just want to close them. Because this is really the only way to totally relax it, is just to shut it down. So I ask a lot of these patients, I go, do you ever notice that by the end of the day, you just want to close your eyes and listen to TV? And I'm like, yeah, lots of times. Well, that's what happens, is these guys just want to relax their system, so they just close their eyes. And then if they say, if I'm closing my eyes, I might as well just go to bed, might as well go to sleep. So these people just feel so beat up by the end of the day because their system is so overworked. We have decreased concentration, decreased night vision. Obviously, if the system is stressed out all throughout the day, the nighttime is going to be the most difficult. And this is where the correlation between light sensitivity also comes. In dry eyes, we do realize that, walking around normally, we typically blink 20 blinks a minute, 15 blinks a minute on a piece of paper, around 10 blinks a minute on a computer screen, and 6 to 8 blinks on a smartphone or a tablet. Again, the closer we're holding these digital devices, the slower the blink rate. But we're finding it's not necessarily the slower the blink rate, because we're finding on one of the recent studies is that when we look at digital screens, we're not blinking completely. So even when we force people to blink more frequently, we're finding they're still running into dryness problems, and it's more due to incomplete blinking than it is due to the slowing of the blink rate. And rubbing of eyes, again, end of the day, it feels really good to, just rub that muscle. Just like if you were working out or the arms were sore, it feels good to rub any muscle like that. So here's the question here I have on my form. And if you ignore, just looking at fluctuation in vision, tired eyes, headaches, body fatigue, dry eyes, light sensitivity, eye rubbing, poor night vision, and reduced concentration, those are the key things I look at. I mean, all the other questions I kind of throw in there just to ask them. And then asking them about the use of a smartphone, the use of a computer, tablet, how often they read books. Do they have trouble sleeping at night? This is a great question so that if you want to discuss blue light and circadian rhythms, if they are on their devices a lot. Again, knowing how often they're sleeping. But you can see here, I also want to know how often are they looking or alternating between two different devices. Because nowadays, most people are looking at a computer screen and a smartphone, or a computer and a TV, or a smartphone and a TV. Because if they are alternating their eyes a lot, I want to look at other factors that possibly be causing this stress too. Because never in the history of my 25 years of being an optometrist have I prescribed more Prism. I've found more and more people having difficulty. Can you imagine? You have the eye is incredible, how complex it is as a structure. And how often we have to take these two eyes and we have to align them together with those extraocular muscles. And we have to also keep that focus equal between the two eyes. And if this system is fighting, whether it's the extraocular muscles trying to align or it's the accommodative system trying to focus on a certain distance, or whether it's a combination of the accommodative conversion system, we need to be aware of this and we need to prescribe accordingly for it. So switching between devices can make the accommodative stress even more great. On average, this focus group was switching between distances 330 times per hour, with 85% of those switches being near to near focus. I mean, that's a pretty incredible statistic that stands out. Now again, think of this group, 25 to 40. This is not that presbyopic group, I don't even like to use that word, but this is that pre-presbyopic group that's also putting a lot more stress on their visual system. And we're finding that, again, prolonged amounts of screen time can lead to accommodative lockup, just like I talked about with that young kid that came in from the DMV. So this kind of is a little video to kind of show accommodative lockup. It kind of gives a little breakdown. I like to use this with my patients sometimes to show them. Like, we want light to hit right on the fovea. But if we look at that ciliary body and those zonules, as we look far away, the system stays nice and relaxed. But then when we bring that screen right up, the accommodative system needs to start to work. And the longer we hold it there, the more that muscle becomes stressed out. And again, like any muscle, it can become locked into its position. So when it's taken away and looked far away, the distance vision becomes blurred. Not until we actually break that or relax that does the distance vision start to come back into play. And so this is what I'm trying to get my younger patients to really understand, is that you need to take sometimes a break. And we use this a lot, where we start to tell them different ways of trying to relax their eyes. But the main thing is trying to explain it to a patient. I mean, it's hard to explain it to a patient. It's hard to tell them, yeah, it's because you're on your phone so much, that's why your distance vision's blurred. No, they think, hey, just give me a pair of glasses for far away. if they're a plus 50 or a plus 1 and you give them a minus 1, you're actually doing them a disservice. You know, they start to wear that and then they get on their phone and then they're like, oh, I'm getting headaches even worse. And I think there's a lot of optometrists that just kind of go click, 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 click. And if you go too fast, they're going to eat that minus up. I mean, it's so easy for younger patients to eat minus in today's world because of the accommodative system and how tight their eyes are getting. So this is what we say, right? Hey, have you ever heard of the 20-20-20 rule? You know, every 20 minutes, if you can just take 20 seconds and look beyond 20 feet, that's going to definitely help break that focus and make it more relaxed. It'll help you out. And I used to tell people this all the time. Just get up, walk around, look out a window, relax your eyes. Take that break. Well, you know, what do people do when they take breaks? They're on their computer all day and then they go, I'm going to take a break, and they get on their phone because I'm going to check my email. I'm going to check the viral video that's going on. So we sit here and think that in the past, it used to be that they could get up and walk out and they would do that. But now, most breaks are taking from a computer distance to a smartphone distance, which is adding even more stress to the eyes versus taking that nice little break. What's interesting here is that 2/3 of the participants did not take a break from their screens at any moment longer than 1 minute. And again, sometimes we're just not aware of all the stuff and the demands on the eyes that are occurring until we actually step back and really take a break and take a group and analyze it in this nature. And here's the thing is that, remember we talked about in the beginning when that in 97, when that new monitor came out and it was an LED backlit and it really started causing more strain on the eyes, and we called it computer vision syndrome. Well, people don't like to be told that they have a syndrome. No one wants to be told, especially these young millennials like to be told, well, you have the computer vision syndrome, because most of them go, syndrome? I have no syndrome here. And they don't believe it. They think it's made up. And this is why I never use computer vision syndrome as terminology anymore in my practice. For most kids, or any patient that's running through this stress, it's called digital eye strain. It's a much more accepted terminology. Millennials get it. If you tell a millennial you have some digital eye strain that's occurring right now, they go, I can see that. I can understand. You mean, they get those terminology. Digital, screen, eye, yes, is stressed out. Not you're on the computer. What computer? I don't have a computer. Vision, syndrome. That's not, so that's why sometimes explaining things in terminologies that work best for them to understand helps them understand the need to move to the next direction. So here's what the focus group's conclusions were. They said, and they were asked, like, what if we had a solution to help relieve you of some of these symptoms? And they came back saying, well, yeah, I'd be curious to learn more about this. This is protection versus a true fix of it? Is this going to postpone or actually prevent this digital eye strain? And is this going to allow me more comfort to be on my screen more often? So they were really intrigued by getting more information about it. But here's the kicker: they just didn't want proof. They just didn't want they wanted more information, but they were like, but I want proof that this is going to work. I don't want this to be any snake oil. You're telling me, do this, and your symptoms are going to be relieved. Do you have a demonstration to prove this to me? Can you actually demonstrate this to me? They said, keep it simple. I know I have these symptoms and I can recognize this, but you don't have to go into this deep technology for me. Just prove to me that this works. And so that was really the key, is that this group, which actually we consider part of the millennial group, which we'll talk about a little bit later, are very much tech savvy, but they want proof. So Hoya Sync 3 has been released now for a month and a half, or 2 months or so. I don't know if it's here the same as it was in the United States, but this is the lens that we've been utilizing. You guys have this as active here. This is going to replace your active lens. I think you have active 5 and active 8. And now we're going to have Sync 3, which is going to be a step up. It's going to allow more options for you to prescribe for your patients. The Sync 3 lens is definitely it's considered a single vision lens. In the United States, it is, by our insurance companies. It's under a single vision lens design. But it is a true single vision lens with multifocal properties, which you understand that that's an oxymoronic statement. That really doesn't make sense to say it's a single vision lens with multifocal properties. But the beauty of it, the design, is that it feels like a single vision lens because the optics are designed to add a boost. And that's what I really like to use in my office, is that I'm giving you a boost. I'm giving you this accommodative support to allow you to be more comfortable and less symptomatic. And so how does it work? You know, we have this boost zone, which is located on the bottom portion of the lens. I don't have it on this slide. I have an instrument that can map out 1,500 points and show you the power distribution of the lens. And on my other presentation, I actually have this of a Sync 9. And so when I'm all done, I'll pull it up so that you guys can see this power distribution map and really get a feel for it. Because when I show you this, that doesn't really show you anything but the fact that the power boost is on the bottom with minimal distortion. Well, you're not getting anything out of this. So I'll get that and pull it up at the end and show you guys. Because it's pretty amazing. My Sync 5 lens in my office, I actually use it. Well, so there's a doctor in Indianapolis. He has almost 50 opticals. Well, he just converted all of his patients over to Sync lenses. As a single vision lens, he uses every single patient in a Sync 5. And he's been doing this for over a year and a half. And I'm trying to get statistical data to break it down and to find out how many remakes he's having. Is he having problems? Is any trouble? I saw him at Vision Expo in New York just the other couple weeks ago, and I asked him, I said, how's it working? I go, I'm amazed that you're doing it this way. And he goes, hey, this is a lens for 2018. We're not having any problems with it. It's working fantastic. Well, I actually have access to his data, information on remakes and things of that nature. So I'm starting to do a little study on a follow-up on how many patients, 50 offices prescribing single vision lenses as Sync 5, what's the result? So it'll be interesting to find out, but he stated that it's an incredible lens. But that's the beauty of it, that you almost have minimal distortion. So again, Sync 3 lenses I use as primary lens for my patients that are aged 13 to 45 who spend more than 2 hours a day on digital devices. Especially if they're symptomatic. If they show any symptoms, this lens is definitely talked about in the beginning about the benefit of relaxing their eyes throughout the day. And I get some practitioners go, well, if you're just doing this prophylactically just to give them this relaxation, then when you take it away from them, then their accommodative system is going to be, you know, kind of in denial and fighting this, and you're actually going to create presbyopic eyes earlier. And there's several studies that actually show that this is not true at all. Actually show that when this accommodative support is taken away, that the focusing system actually can rebound back even better and show even more accommodative support. So it's not, what happens is we're constantly told and learned throughout our profession that when you hit 40, that's when you hit around presbyopia. And presbyopia, Latin for old eyes, and we base it off of an age, 40 years of age, yeah, we can understand that the lens becomes more or less elastic as time goes on. But we can't look at it based off of how much elasticity do you have. We have to base it off of, are you symptomatic and what is the demand on your eyes? Because if I'm 12 years old and I'm sitting here looking at a device this close for 8 hours of a day, that demand is so great that it doesn't matter if I have 14 diopters of accommodation. If I'm doing this for that amount of time, I'm going to start showing symptoms. So I don't even like using the word presbyopia anymore, because now it's about demand and symptoms. Because never in the history of mankind have we ever used our eyes like this. Have we ever stared at devices and screens for such prolonged amounts of times at such close distances? So here's the boost powers. These are the new power distribution of the Sync 3 lenses. So the Sync 5 now, instead of being a 0.53, is a 0.57. The Sync 9 now, it's not an 8. Instead of the 0.88, now we have the Sync 9 at 0.95. And then we actually have a new lens that has a power of a plus 1.32. We call it the Sync 1.3. And then, again, this is how Hoya likes to suggest, you know, if you want to break it down on how to prescribe it, they kind of say, look, if someone's spending more than 2 hours a day looking at their digital device screens or other near tasks, you should just put them in a Sync 5. If they spend 2 or more hours looking at a digital screen and they show minimal to moderate amount of digital eye strain, look towards the Sync 9. And if they spend 2 or more hours looking at their digital screen and they show moderate to severe, look towards the 1.3. I say, you guys are pretty knowledgeable about who you prescribe to your patients. I mean, as far as progressives, you know, you can sit here and say, well, I think you should be in a 1.5 ad or you should be in a 2 ad. It's the same thing. You guys are going to know which Sync lens. These are tools. These are just tools. And I tell a story because not that long ago, I actually had a truck driver come in. His prescription was a -2. And he's a truck driver. So he's on the road driving for 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. And his complaint was, I can't see my dashboard. But he says, I go, well, how much reading do you do? And he goes, I mean, at night I'll read for an hour, but I just take my glasses off. So I'm going, well, it's a better lens to prescribe. But the Sync 9 was perfect for him. He's a -2. The Sync lens comes in, gives him his dashboard out here, and then when he wants to read, he just takes them off. So it's just about thinking about what's the demand that this truck driver is asking about, where is he stressed out, and how can I relieve him, give him the least amount of distortion, and prescribe the best lens for him. And that's all these are tools. These new lenses, these new boost lenses are just tools for us to have available to prescribe when needed in whatever direction. I have patients in their 50s that I'll prescribe the Sync 132. It depends on their demand. It depends on their complaints. It depends on what they're doing with their eyes. So again, we try to explain to patients, you know, that these Sync lenses are there to give you a boost, to help relax the accommodative system so that by the end of the day, their eyes are not as fatigued and not as stressed out. But again, remember what the focus group said? They said, I want proof. Can you prove it to me? Tell me that this is going to work. So really, what I love to do in my exam lane is I have a pair of +1 flippers here. So and you guys, most of all you have trial lenses, you know, with a trial frame, and you can take a pair of +1s. I like to use 1s because they're not, you know, to the 125, but the 1s are equal to the Sync 9. And I like to hold them in front of my patient with their manifest script on there. And I like to explain to them that, look, I'm holding these lenses here. And when I'm holding them here, I'm relaxing your focusing system. And they're looking down at their phone or they're looking at some kind of card. And I'm saying, look, so right now your eyes aren't working as hard. They're relaxed. When I pull this away, I want you to feel what your eyes are doing. And as I pull it away, look for their reaction. You'd be amazed how many people, when you pull away, are like, wow, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing all day. Because it's a really simple demonstration, because you can tell them, you're doing this with your eyes, you're telling me that you're strained and stressed with these symptoms, but until they feel it, then they get it. So here's a video of a patient of mine. So I kind of said to her, hey, look, I'm just going to put these in front of you, relax your accommodative system. So again, I want you to just feel this relaxation. When I pull this away, I want you to feel, again, what your eyes are doing all day.
Yeah.
You see your reaction? This is what you tend to see.
Yeah.
You tend to see people want to pull it away, and they want to increase their blink rate. So it's a real simple, and especially with younger patients, when you're trying to explain this to a mother on why this 14 or 15-year-old needs this ad, this boost. When you hold it in front of it, I like to show the parent, I like to look at them and go, so when I pull this away, watch how they're going to react. And it's amazing when I pull it away and you see that young patient go, oh yeah, the mother gets it. The patient gets it. Here's another one. She had a lot of digital eye strain. She had checked off almost all the boxes, and she was doing near demand work a lot. Stressing out. So when I pull this away, I want you to feel what your eyes are doing all day. That's when you can really,
you're getting.
each patient, you know, she immediately knew that she'd benefit from it. And when you do this, what's interesting is that if you go for a second time, for those patients that you pull it away and they go, oh, okay, and then you drop back down again, and you do it a second time, usually the second time really hits them because now the accommodative system is really confused on what's going on. This is another one, this gentleman here. What's interesting about guys, because I knew he needed even more. I put a +150 in front of him because he had all these symptoms. But when I pull it away, you'll notice he doesn't quite react, you know, as significant as girls do. But I could tell because he's like, oh yeah, I feel that, you know. And I put it back down for that second time, and then when I pulled away, he really could sense it more. But he could feel the relaxation. But it's funny because I tend to see guys tend to be more, you know, machoistic, you know, like, yeah, I can feel that, yeah. Girls are more like, okay, yeah. But this is a simple test. It's really simple. And when you talk to patients about, they're telling you that they're stressed out, you're telling you that they're on their device a lot, now feel it. Now feel it. And once they feel it, they get it, they understand it. So again, this is where, Hoya, leads. We were the first one to come out with an anti-fatigue lens. We've been the one. We're on our third generation of anti-fatigue type lenses. I don't even like to use the word anti-fatigue. I like to use now boost lenses. Let's give you a little boost. Let's give you a little help. So that's why I like working with Hoya, is that they're constantly trying to evolve the technology to what's going on in the world. And that's the power of, the partnership with Hoya that I like to work with, is the fact that, especially the third one, helps overcome commoditization of the single vision lens market. Because in the United States, I don't know what it is in Europe and in the UK, but in the United States, it's tough. I mean, as far as an independent optometrist, having my own practice, I'm competing against chain after chain. I'm competing against some big name companies out there that own a lot of lens designs, and it's all about cheapness. And I'm about the experience, about making sure I practice behavioral optometry. That's my goal, is to sit there and analyze and delve into what their world is about and what's going on with their system. And, is it a accommodative convergence problem? Is it a convergence problem? Is there anything going on with the extraocular muscles versus the internal accommodation? And what are their demands and what are they looking at? And let's really put this together. And I think that's what's key, is we have a new lens now that helps fight this. You can't get this lens in the big boxes. You can't get these lenses. It's funny because some patients will be like, well, can you write the prescription for that? I want that. It's like, sure, Sync 3. And immediately you'll get a call from an optical going, can I put them in a progressive? And they're like, it's not the same. And then when they realize that the cost of the Sync lens is less than a progressive going to a cheap place, they end up coming back anyways. And once they wear this and they feel that relaxation, they're just not going to go backwards. So again, when ordering the Sync lenses, you want to look at, you fit on OC just like the Active. It's identical to the Active in every aspect, except it's just a better design. It's just the third generation and the evolution of technology. And the lenses have pretty much the same parameters. They go from -10 to +6. They come in all the different intensity, poly, pretty much everything that you're used to right now. But here's the key, is that this is the big key right now, is we really need to think single vision lenses, because we're dealing with in a new time, a new world. So think of it this way: who normally wears single vision lenses? It's normally your kids. It's the people that are under the age of 40, those young adults, and it's your presbyopes that say, I can't get used to progressive. I want to wear a pair for distance and a pair for near. But of this group here, one of them actually stands out, especially in my practice. It's the millennials. That group born between 1980 and the year 2000. There's something unique about this group, because this group is actually probably one of the most tech-savvy groups out there. This is the group that's, they say, hey, real friends won't call me. They're only going to text me. They know that if someone's calling them, it better be pretty important, because this is how they communicate. I have a 25-year-old. And I try to call him, and as soon as I call him, I text him and go, you better answer me, and I get a response back like in minutes. So, he doesn't want to communicate any other way but text. And when we get into an argument, I'll get this long text from him like, let's talk, It just doesn't happen. And email, unless you're sending them an attachment of some sort, they're not going to read it at all. They're finding that this group between the 17 and 37, between 1980 and 2000, 70% of them state that they are suffering from digital eye strain. Once they're told the symptoms, 70% of them go, oh yeah, I'm feeling that. So this is a large group that's actually on their devices as much as they are, and they are complaining of it. The question is, are you asking? Are they suffering? Vision Council found that 90% of opticals or doctors are not asking their patient, do they suffer from digital eye strain? So unless you're asking and you're just hoping that the patient's going to come out and go, hey, doc, I just want to let you know, this is what's happening in my life right now, and I'm getting these stresses, and I really think, can you do something to help me? Unless you're asking, they're not going to be telling you. Here's some other interesting facts. The millennials are actually the largest generation in the workforce. I know in the United States they are. So this group is a very large representation of people that are on computers, on tablets, using digital devices in their workforce, and then they're using their phones. I look at my own staff. I look at my own opticians. I see them, and I still allow people to have smartphones in the office, and I don't. It doesn't bother me unless it starts to see them hindering their workload. But I'm seeing them on their computer doing this, inputting all the information, ordering DVI, all that stuff, and then I'll see them on their phone, double check something, and then they're back on their computer. They're not looking far away. They just don't. And this is the majority of my staff. Even though I tell them, I'm going, go take a break. Why don't you go drive somewhere for lunch, and go pick some food up somewhere. Just look far away for a while. Because my optician, she's 23, my key optician, and she wears the Sync 9. And I'll show you again that breakdown of that. But she's a plus 50 on top and a plus 1 on the bottom, and she can't be without them. I mean, it's her world. One time she came to work and she forgot them, and she actually asked, "Can I just go home and get them?" I feel a lot more comfortable. She lives about 15 minutes away. I said, "No, it's okay. Go ahead. She'd be definitely more efficient. She'd definitely be less stressed out and less tired and wanting to work on her computer more." They're also the #1 generation to make a referral. This is the group that you want on your side, because this is the group that, they'll get on their phone and be like, "I'm checking in at Optical Matters." That's the name of my practice. Or, I'll talk to them about, I'm sure, some of your friends, what I do is when I walk out to my opticians to talk to them about what I think is going to work best for the patient, I discuss it in front of them. But then when we're all done, I kind of say to them, "Well, thanks a lot." And I go, "I'm sure there's a lot of your other friends that are having the same difficulty you are too." And they're like, "Matter of fact, I think but I'm amazed at how many referrals I'm getting just by that last little sentence from them thinking, yeah, you know what? I got these cool lenses. My eyes are much more relaxed. I should tell other people about this, because it's not like I said, 70% are showing that they are suffering from digital eye strain. This group is also becoming the greatest generation of spenders. This group is supposed to, through their generation, spend $21 trillion. I mean, this is a large, large group. And they are the group that says, hey, I want it. If this is designed for me, if this is something that's going to help make me more comfortable, especially for what I'm doing, I'm willing to spend. That's exactly what they want. If we can create something with their interest in mind, then they want it. And you know what? They want to trust that it feels authentic. That's where demonstrating and showing them, or demonstrating the relaxation effect with a +1 flipper is a great way to make this authentic for them. They like it when you prescribe, when you tell them, look, this is what's going on, this is what you need. Don't say, well, this is what would work best for you, and or you could do this, and then there's another thing you could try. Here are your options. This is your best option. This would be the second option. This would be they don't want to make the decision. They want to be told what do they need to do, and this is what needs to be prescribed. And again, that's where we talked about the referral aspect of it all. Ask about including a friend. Asking about, you think your friends are feeling the same type of visual irritation. So here, overall, end here, the Sync 3 lenses, you must understand, we're living in a new world. We're living in a new time, a new demand. So just ask your patients, are they suffering from symptoms of digital eye strain? Ask your patients, are you on your device a lot? How often are you on these devices? And demonstrate in the exam lane. So simple, so easy, especially when you see symptoms checked off and you see demand is high. Show the demonstration. And definitely allow your offices, especially as an independent optometrist, to differentiate yourself from online and big box retailers. That's the only way in today's world. You can't compete against these guys. You can't sit here and go, I'm going to prescribe the same thing at just cheaper prices. It just doesn't work. You have to separate. You have to differentiate. So let me try to see if I can. It's on the stick. I don't know if Andy, you can pull up the other presentation that was on your stick, and I can just jump to it. But do you guys have any questions? Go ahead.
The guy you were talking about, the driving student, the driving standard, did you prescribe him Plano Sync 9? Or did you just say, this is the problem, get on the road?
So he wasn't going to get off his phone. The problem with it is that the insurance companies actually have to have plus 50 to minus 50 in the distance for it to be covered. So in his case, I prescribed the plus 50s with the Sync 8 at the time. We've always used Sync in the United States. And so, basically told him, wear this, you'll relax your eyes all throughout the day for the majority of the time. But if you feel like your distance vision is a little blurry when you're driving at night, just go ahead and take them off, but your eyes should feel more comfortable. I try to tell patients this too, is if they still feel this, especially even with my progressive patients that are still seeing fluctuation, and I do this myself. It's a neat little trick. Because if I'm on my phone doing a whole bunch and I'm on my laptop doing a whole bunch and I look at my TV, I'm going, my TV's all blurry. So what I'll do is I'll tip my head and look through the progressive and I'll hold it there. And then I just tip it slowly down and it's like, boom, wow. Now my vision's clear. It's the same thing as even using it with myself and releasing. And I'm in my 50s and I still have accommodative lockup. And so it's really depending on the near work. But I try to give them that little tip too, is try to look through the very, very bottom of the lens for a little bit. And then slowly tip your head down and just and then most of them will be like, oh, wow. Even those patients that sometimes because I try to prescribe as least amount of minus as I can that makes the patient happy, as long as I'm not going too far where they feel blurred. But you see those patients pick these glasses up and they'll be like, oh, this is weird. It's all blurry far away. And I'll come out with my +1 flipper and hold it over their distance for a little bit and pull it away and then hold it down and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a lot clearer. Well, they just came in from work. They've been on their phone and doing a whole bunch of near work. Their system's not going to relax towards that accommodative power. So sometimes giving them that little bit of boost to just hold that lens and pull it away, they'll feel like, oh, wow, yeah, I get it now. I'm going, just put them on fresh in the morning. Your eyes will be more apt to accepting that less minus, and it'll definitely allow you more comfort.
How does this lens compare to other ones on the market? I mean, Essilor's got the anti-fatigue lens. Nikon has their lens as well.
Here are the powers.
Shamir has their lens.
So here are the power distributions of all the lenses. And you can see Sync, has this, our distribution of power. Nobody goes up to nearly the power that we go to. Eisen has the 4, 6, and the 8.5. Energize Me 0.4 and 0.65, which interesting. Energize Me says, put these lenses on top of your contact lenses that are the 0.4. But you can see everyone has their own distribution of powers. And again, what I love about this is that the fitting height is 14 millimeters. So most of the frames I know in the United States that we're fitting are deeper plastics. And so a lot of times the fitting height's more like 19, 20. Well, if I took a Sync 9, 5, and I set it at a fitting height of 19, say 20, I'm actually going to get a power of about a 1.3. So I can actually play with these. I have some presbyopes that are having trouble adapting to a progressive that I put into a Sync 1.3 with a fitting height of 20. And they're like, wow, yeah, they're getting down at the bottom, almost a 175. So I have a lot of these power this is the power breakdown of the lens. This is a Sync 9. And you can see at the top here, it's +50. At the bottom, it's +1. But you can see how minimal this distortion is. So they've got this open-ended on the top with quite the comforts with very little distortion. So you can see it does have that slight corridor effect, but that corridor, instead of coming down as a true hourglass, it's really pushed out to almost like this open-ended V lens design. So, and that's that +50 with a +1, and this is my my optician's pair of lenses or single lens. Any other question? Yeah.
Your peripheral, for distance, then your peripheral vision in the distance, there's some compromise there. Then surely
it's almost negligible. She doesn't notice any type of distortion. There's a slight power distribution, but it's spread out to such a slow distribution. Again, most of us, when I look out there, most of us, we're not going to do this. We really don't. It's against our nature to turn our eyes. Now, if there's a little distortion and I turn my eyes and lead, and then my head follows, with that much with that type of power distribution, it's going to be minimal. I mean, unless your brain is extremely picky towards it. Now, again, I have some patients. The patients that I have that have trouble with it, are my really tall patients. Because most of my tall patients are constantly looking down at people in the world. They're not tipping their head down and looking at them. Some of them are just looking down. And they're catching that power distribution on the bottom with more effect. So a lot of times if I have a sync 9 and they're a tall patient, I'll tend to put them in a sync 5 just to try to reduce that distortion effect. I mean, I've probably had to remake probably a 5 or 6 of them, and I started to learn, oh, wait a second, all these people are all tall people. You know, I better try, and every time I've switched them to a sync 5 from a sync 9 or a sync 8, they've all succeeded.
Would this be covered with non-toll or not?
With what?
Non-tolerance, like in multifocals.
Well, it depends, I guess, what the
would
person
be
is
for-
themselves. You'd have to ask.
Or Hoya. Would be.
What's the success with emmetropes?
Well, again, that's my hard part is that if it's insurance based, I get stuck and I'm going, I mean, I could prescribe this to planos significantly in my practice. But when I have that and they have an insurance company that won't cover it, then they're like, I don't want it. And you're going, well, you'd benefit from it. You know, so then it gets to be this discussion where it depends on how cheap they are. And then even when I'm demonstrating it and they get done, they understand it, I'm going, well, this is a +1 flipper. You can go and you can get a +1 reader and you can put it on and relax your eyes. But I go, here, let me show you something. Look far away. And I'll put a +1 in front of them and they'll go, oh, that's blurry. And I'm like, yeah, so, you know, you can do this. You know, this 19-year-old. And they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, you know what? Hey, go pick a pair up and you'll watch and see how you're using it. But remember, you can always come back and we can remake this for you. Your insurance company's not going to cover it. I've tried pushing like +50s, you know, and those patients are like, I don't like this now because my distance vision is blurry and they're doing one of these things again. And I'm actually in the midst of battling the insurance companies. I'm coming up with, hey, look, there's new demands. You should not be telling me that I cannot prescribe a plano. If someone has a diagnosis of accommodative insufficiency or symptoms of digital eye strain that I don't have the ability to prescribe a plano. So I'm getting them all the information from the Vision Council. I'm pulling all the information about diagnostic symptoms of whether it's convergence insufficiency, it doesn't matter. It's accommodative insufficiency. And if these people are running into accommodative lockup, then I should not be restricted to plus and minus half a diopter. I should be, if I want to prescribe plano sync 9, I should be able to, and it's frustrating. So I'm gathering all the data to submit it to the insurance companies for them to actually put that lens on a non-restrictive aspect, because I can prescribe a plano progressive. Well, I don't understand why I can't. They're afraid of that every doctor out there is going to prescribe plano sync 9s to all their patients because it's covered.
But that's not a problem in Europe, though, is it? Because we can prescribe planos.
So I
don't know what the
the
experience is here.
My experience is it works beautiful. It's a wonderful lens to do it that way. I'm restricted. I don't know what the results are in Europe, but I think the lens works beautifully as a plano lens, just as a relaxive effect. And they don't even have to wear it all the time. But when they're in school and they're going down and they're up and they're down and they're up, that's where they get in trouble because they're focusing, accommodative, looking up. They need to relax, and they're noticing that vision is fluctuating all over the place, and they're getting headaches and tiredness, and they're not able to work as comfortably for long periods of time. Well, giving them a plano sync 9 relieves them of that. It works very well. Any other questions?
What's the youngest you prescribe them to?
The youngest I've prescribed it to is 9. I don't like to ever prescribe anything under the age of 8, just because the brain, even if there's the slightest amount of distortion effect. So 9 is when I push it. And that was a patient that was very symptomatic. And I didn't want to go to, I didn't want to put in a progressive. I didn't want to throw into a line bifocal. I wanted, because there was some sensitivity there at that age. So I put him in a sync 9 at 9. With good success.
So the teenage range, you quite have to accommodate it.
Typically the group that it falls within, that I really typically prescribe it, 13 to 35, 40-year-olds, that's really that's the group. Especially that group 20 to 35, it's a huge group. And these people are coming in and they're on their devices a lot. And I can honestly say, over the years, I've actually prescribed over 1,000 of these lenses, and I have a very good success with them. Anything else? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me have this opportunity to come and just chat with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much again, Thomas. That was fantastic. Really enjoyed that. Just to let you know, Sync 3 is being launched from Monday in the UK.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
And we don't have polycarbonate in the UK, but we have 1.5, 153, 1.6, 167, 174. Okay. Also available with Sensity as well. Okay.